Well, I screwed up. So because of ESPN's lack of ingenuity to put the game on YouTube or anywhere else for that matter, I got blindsided by highlight reels from the previous season. When I saw FIU had 7 losses instead of 6 wins, I panicked and changed the trajectory of my section for the Panthers without giving a second thought. The Macy's parade was coming to a close and Santa Claus was coming to town. You couldn't pay me enough to miss that! In all seriousness though, I disrespected the absolute hell out of Willie Simmons. He came in and exceeded expectations far beyond what anything I had anticipated. I sort of just assumed they didn't make a bowl based on that. But with 180 rushing yards per game on average and a 4-2 home record, I should have assumed otherwise. I take responsibility for my previous incorrect elimination and pronounce you a bowl eligible. Great job in finishing the year with the dub over Sam Houston. My apologies for messing up, and I hope the Panther faithful can forgive me. Also, I forgot to pronounce the same eligibility status for NC State. But nobody cares because 6 or 7 wins is the Dave Doran threshold per season. On to the chaos.
Let's roll. Here we go. To win, you gotta not lose. Just different leagues.
At long last, we've made it to the final stretch of the regular season. The moment where seasons are proven to be an upgrade or downgrade from the previous, unless you're Minnesota, of which you're stuck at 7-5. Where the rubber meets the road one last time for many teams before they enter the depths of the offseason. Many progress to the postseason, or if you don't suck, the conference championship and or the playoffs. But before we can get to all the glory that awaits in order to crown a true champion, we have to unveil one last week of chaos to see which team solidified their ranking. If you're Missouri, your ranking was solidified before the season began as you're stuck in the top 25 loop. Someone has to be Alabama's quality win. Despite me feeling like I've lost what feels like a year off of this week and furthermore the entire season, my veins are built off the blood, sweat, and tears of college football. So let's lock in for another week of chaos. At long last, we've been waiting for a subordinate to take over Kent State's place as the ultimate take of the season, and through the escapades of the 2025 season, only one team can be so absolutely horrifically bad as to take the throne for shittier than all the shit. Just like every game they've played, they face a cold monsoon, hence the general mood of the fan base. Cold and sick. Only a true sicko could watch UMass in the dark blow themselves up again. Bowling Green, despite their status as like the 18th best team in the state, found themselves learning offense again, fighting against the program. Spearheaded by Austin Dendy putting up 100 yards, rushing off of 2 touchdowns, it wasn't much of a day on offense. But again, this, whatever you call this, any movement sort of doing the worm at the 20-yard line would be enough to push them to the win column. Off of yet another collapse, their last collapse in fact, the Minutemen have done the thing! They had completed the gauntlet to become the champions of Suck! 0-12! Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Congratulations. This team's first winless campaign since rejoining FBS play. We'll take the Kibby Dome back at any point. If you know anything about the military academies when it comes to football, it is that you go into the game expecting the unexpected. Memphis was given a 90% chance of winning by ESPN based off of Navy's performances post the bye weeks. But it's in moments like these where the nation is doubting their abilities that the midshipmen thrive the most. Most of that came down to the fact that Memphis' entire plan was shutting down the run game of Blake Horvath. While they did a better job than most, this opened the door for Alex Tezga to awaken the run game again. Most games where Navy has 200 yards rushing is a closed door for the opposing team. To the chagrin of the Tigers, the Shipmen additionally found out a thing that they only find out 3 times a season: passing the football. Any game where Navy has 100 yards passing is a telltale sign that you are screwed beyond recognition. All the more confirmed by Memphis refusing to do anything after the first half. They went like Scott Strickland in a coaching search and refused to move in any capacity. Said collapse propels Navy to sharing a stock of the AAC regular season title, but 75% of the conference earns that award too, so not really saying much. Ryan Silverfield's conservative poop football has lost the interest of most of the fans and the national media. Keyword being most. So has Marty Smith been freed from captivity yet, or is that coming after this game comes to a close? Maybe never. If Lane plans on leaving Oxford, he's going to leave the entire state in flames. Henceforth, he has to wipe his rival off the face of the earth once again. I could spend the entirety of this segment deep diving into Kiffin and where or what he's going to do, but then I'd just be like everyone else and you've heard enough of that during halftime of your own games. it was overdue for Ole Miss to receive a loss, since them being in the playoffs is as surreal as it gets. However, they extended their reach beyond that of the cursed placement among the SEC and found a way to win regardless. Trinidad Chambliss eviscerated the Cowbell secondary with almost 400 yards through the air. Add Kawan Lacey absolutely going off for another 150 yards, and the Rebs nearly got to 600 off the Jeff Lebby defensive front. Mississippi State was using the little game time they had to let freshman Kamario Taylor have a shot at playing. He showed signs of greatness in what's otherwise been a status quo for the Bulldogs, as with all Egg Bowls, this one was clean, with absolutely no signs of negativity or drama on the field.
As the ball comes out, the arm hit of Chambliss, and it's still loose, recovered by Mississippi State. And some pushing and shoving after the play, and now a flag. Daquan Wright and Tyler Lockhart get into it, and now the benches are starting to empty. Mississippi State running onto the field late, another flag is...
My ass. This fight looked more even than the one they've been doing all game at least. Off of it, the Rebs moved to 11 regular season wins, a first for the program. The poor rival they beat will have to lick their chops and pray the next year brings a team capable of closing games. The only thing that's closing for you in 2025 is the door. Get out! Even when they aren't playing each other, Kansas's sunflower rival in Kansas State always finds all kinds of ways to screw over the Jayhawks. Any chance that Utah was walking into a trap game was squandered by the Utes having to score more than 50 points to keep their slim playoff hopes alive. Thanks to that end result, the defense from last week managed to show up on the field this time, partly due to Jalen Daniels returning to the Kansas form of football aids. He threw 3 interceptions and promptly screwed Kansas out of any chance to win. A poetic end to what's been a downhill trend for him. Devon Dampier, far from perfect, did what was needed to keep Kansas away from being a threat to the Utes. Larry Simmons came in the clutch multiple times and ensured a sound defeat for the other squad. No matter where Utah ends their 2025 season, there's no doubt that it went far better than their Big 12 opener did. Their first 10-win season since 2019 solidified by this outcome. Lance Leopold is now 2-8 in games that would clinch the Jayhawks bowl eligibility. The lights of their own stadium get too bright, and now they become poor man's Nebraska. You don't even have the luxury of a supportive fan base. This offseason is going to be a fork in the road for Lance. He'll need to adapt in order to keep his job. Otherwise, he can do like his team and... Get out! I know that the last 7 times these two teams met on the field, it's been a one-score football catastrophe which is decided by a field goal or a fumble, but this was never going to go Nebraska's way. The Huskers' injury report was built like a soccer mom's shopping list, as it goes on eternally. Nebraska would at least continue the tradition of playing a struggle fest of football, but with the Hawkeyes having an offense that is useful every once in a while, there was nothing left for Nebraska but the sweet release of death. Mark Grodowski rushed for 2 touchdowns and threw for a third. 3 touchdowns for one team in this rivalry is unheard of, so it confirmed that this was a newly reinforced Hawkeye team. Emmett Johnson did everything he could to try and keep the Huskers in the ballgame, but he is only one man. Under the 26-degree weather, the Husker offense froze without a passing game that functions, led to Iowa getting the jump on Nebraska for their 8th win of the regular season. When Dylan Mahomes went down, the season did with him. However, the season is still a success considering the 7-5 regular season. I'm sorry in advance for whichever team is going to blast you in the postseason. This was what all college football fans live for. You'd think a game like this has no purpose, but it serves all of it. 2 Mountain West contenders fighting to screw the other season as they come to a regular season close. More accurately, it was 2 forces running down the other's throat for 60 minutes. Lucky Sutton of San Diego State had over 100 yards rushing on his own, as New Mexico managed over 150 yards on the ground on their end. Jack Lane did just enough to keep the Lobos going blow for blow with the Aztecs. Games with this much on the line could only end in one such way: chaos overtime. It went exactly as it should. New Mexico gets a pick at overtime, and with a chance to end it, promptly shits the football back to San Diego State at the 3-yard line. Off of their goofy-ass turnover, the Lobos quickly got their swagger back and scored to go up by 6. 3 downs later, and the Aztecs are stuck 30 yards back in what we would call a Hail Mary being the only thing left to save them.
San Diego State needs nothing short of a miracle. Denegal steps up. He throws into the end zone. It's over! It's over! New Mexico has done its job!
You really thought you could come into University Stadium and win? Ha! For shame. The Lobos finished the year with 9 wins and will be remembered for what will likely be one of the best teams they've had. Don't forget these moments. It's the G6, so you could just as easily be in the dumpster next season. This game had way higher stakes 3 weeks ago when Georgia Tech still mattered. It took no time at all for them to remember which conference they represent and promptly fall off the face of the earth. Despite the lackluster performance from both teams here, there would be no 8 overtimes to decide a winner here. That's probably for the best. Georgia's offense was a struggle to watch. Nate Frazier did all the work and everyone else promptly screwed off for the entire day. But when you shut down the Haynes King run game, you shut down the entire program and every Pet Boys in a 10-mile radius. All Tech could manage was 3 measly field goals. The Dogs only needed 1 touchdown in order to maintain their lead through the entire contest. Tech's offense was borderline unwatchable against this squad. So in no time at all, we figured out that Georgia will take another one over Tech in what will be their 8th win in a row for the Mickey Mouse program against the Piss Jackets. Hope the extra money was worth it. You may have gotten a few extra million for playing this game in Mercedes-Benz, but in the process, you lost both the game and your dignity. Like you had any left in the ACC. It's insulting to Kirk Cignetti in Indiana that they have to visit West Lafayette to end their glorious season. It's an otherwise anticlimactic ending to a record they set on this day. The only good thing for the Soilermakers is that it's very tough to outdo the performance from last season in terms of how shit it was, so all they had to do was attempt to show up and the rest would play out how they expected. The expectation, of course, still being a disembowelment at the hands of the Hoosiers. Roman Hemby had 150 yards on his own, just one of the many pieces that led to over 350 rushing yards on the day. Ryan Brown managed to find somewhat of a passing game, but only when the game was out of reach. It's just another episode of Cignetti beating the absolute shit out of everyone in the never-ending dick measuring contest that they have with Ohio State and Ryan Day. That'll come to the forefront soon enough. Indiana's perfect season continues in the meantime. Purdue had no silver lining to fall off of because they got wiped again. 2-10 with no wins in the Big Ten. We'll chop this one up as a transitional year and assume Barry Odom finds out how to coach football next season. Yeah, we knew it was coming. We all knew it was gonna happen. Texas A&M came into the Lone Star dogfight undefeated, but they did so by wiping the table scraps and toilet seats off of the SEC to get here. Even if it is Texas we're talking about, this is ironically Texas A&M's strongest test since the road game at South Bend. How'd they perform? By falling flat on their face and blowing up all over Austin. Not everyone caved to the pressure, but you certainly did. The defense was unable to shut down the Texas run game, getting cut open all night by Quintravion Wisner off of a season-high rushing total, as well as Arch Manning. Think about that. Your perfect season spoiled by Arch Manning's redemption arc. Battered Aggie syndrome continued in kind by making the Aggie offense just as useless. Marcel Reed wasn't even able to snap the football before the entire Texas defensive line surrounded him. Led to Texas solidifying the dub, and more importantly, keeping Texas A&M out of the SEC title game. Because guess who's backdooring their way in again? The damn Mouse! Thanks a lot, guys. I had faith in you for once, and this is exactly what you do. At least you're consistent. You're just as good as masquerading as a football team as you are a military academy. See you in the first round, assholes. First time in what feels like forever ago when both of these teams in the Desert Showdown find themselves ranked heading into this one. It's rare to see one of them reach this point, but for both? Quite the shocker indeed. Well, it wasn't a shock to see just how useless and redundant the Arizona State offense was with Jeff Sims commanding the charge. What? You mean to tell me that quarterbacks that can't throw with 10 years of experience will never learn how to throw? Oh my goodness! Stunning revelation, I know. Despite the sellout crowd and the record they had at Set Home Stadium, it wasn't enough against the revelation of Noah Fafita learning he has other weapons on offense. He didn't have a generational run, but the guy on the other side has been throwing picks for multiple generations, so it led to him commanding a multi-score lead as the game closed out, highlighted by a botched handoff by the Sun Devils near their own goal line to open the third quarter. Off of this win, the Desert Cats from out of nowhere land reach a 9-win regular season. Like they still have Jed the Fish, a welcoming redemption arc for Brent Brennan. If he can make it to 10, it'll be considered a massive turnaround for this program overall, as if it isn't already. If nothing else, you've confirmed Arizona State is far more shallow without Cam Skibbity or Sam Levin. There was a realistic outcome to this game, and there was an absolutely hilarious one. Based on how this week has progressed so far, you can already tell where this one went. Michigan's offense is becoming more and more unwatchable by the second. Any more games, and the offense will revert back to a black and white form of itself before the forward pass was invented. While the Bucknuts were far from an offensive force in this game, the mere thought of their defense made the other side shiver in their boots, setting up for the offense to scatter their way towards the end zone line once every quarter or so. Moreover, Ryan Day learned that he had talent over the wide receiver core, and this time actually bothered to use it. Once that became a revelation, any chance the Wolverines had of keeping the streak alive vanished in thin air. The touchdown catch by Jeremiah Smith left no doubt in this result. Michigan's offense fell so flat they didn't even see the end zone once, the first time they found themselves this bad offensively since 2007. Off of Michigan taking the Kirk Ferentz route and Ohio State learning about the talent fee, the Buckeyes have finally done it! They've ended the streak and returned to dominance over Michigan. No sense in talking about how you need to win much more to even the series, but that's okay! The Wolverines stuck around after this game to defend the middle of the field, which is just about as much movement as their offense had total. At least they're consistent. Yeah, we get it. You made your point. Can we move on? Was there legitimately anyone who thought West Virginia had a shot here? Anyone who knows Rich Rod knows at the end of the season is usually where everything goes to hell anyway. Plus, it's the Red Raiders. The moment they score with Jacob Rodriguez running the football, I would have immediately switched the channel to something else. Anything else. Even Cocomelon. There's less brain rot on that than there is for West Virginia football, and now that Baron Morton's back, that's just added more death to the Mountaineers. The offense was shut down and the defense perished. Cut your losses for the year and get ready for the gauntlet next season. That's about all you ever had to look forward to this season. The Canes have no choice but to win big here, because there was no other way to prove that they belonged in the college football playoffs. They had no choice but to rely on that Notre Dame win otherwise. Miami's defensive line is a threat and a half, especially to guys with no offensive line to exist. You could have understood that, and that would have been more than enough to tell the tale of exactly how this went down. They manifested death upon Mason Hunt-Snell, amassing 4 sacks upon dozens of pressures in the pocket. Give the man negative seconds to throw and there's very little he can do against you. Carson Beck, minus the trademark interception, tore apart the poor Pitt defense. Malachi Toney himself was more than enough to beat the Panthers. Once the win was solidified in their favor, the Canes took control of the time of possession. What's Pitt gonna do about it? Move down the field? The odds of that happening are about as good as them going to a bowl game against a G6 school and coming out the winner. This win marked another 10-win season for the Canes, and maybe prevails them to the big dance. It's all dependent on the art of chaos. Don't count on it though, you're Miami after all, and you're in the ACC. Who would have ever thought they had a better shot of winning a playoff game than the Tank Conference Championship? Kentucky basketball has taken a fall from grace this season from the looks of it. They look far from the title contender fans are looking for, but they could lose the entire team and start the next season's recruiting class in mid-SEC play, and I promise you they'll look 3 times as competent as the teams Mark Stoops is putting on the field now. They are completely dead in every which way, shape, and form. Saying they struggled offensively would be like me saying they even attempted to move the ball. In no capacity did they even try to do that. Meanwhile, Louisville was sending out walk-on freshmen on the field, and they were still butchering the Wildcats secondary like nobody's business. It was cooked beyond recognition. Everything was. Go ahead and surrender your rights to play football until you beat a power conference team. And no, Hugh Freeze does not count.
And get back to the coal mines, baby!
Now that Clemson is fresh off that last loss against the Gamecocks, it was the other team's time to fall apart. Dabo has been mindlessly scanning Lenore's cellars all season to prevent what happened last time, and it showed. He was completely unable to run the football, stuck in one place. However, this actually worked against the Taters. It left their secondary wide open for attack consistently. Sellers was able to torch them through the air with over 350 yards passing. The only problem was that the moment the lights got their brightest, Sellers, plus the entire offense, laid eggs. So many eggs. So daggum many eggs! Led to Cade Klubnik and company taking advantage of the opportunities and keeping the Taters blow for blow with South Carolina. Of course, as a final middle finger for the fans and the South Carolina administration, South Carolina's offense had one more gift for the program on their way out of the 2025 season.
Is in zone, up top, deflected, intercepted, there's Jones again, pick 6.
A tip pick 6 is about as poetic of a way as South Carolina season could come to a close. Perfect way to end a 4-8 season for the Cox. You guys are still doing really well in practice though, right? Good to hear. Clemson ends their season about as good as they possibly could with how it's gone. They were one more conference loss away from Tyler from Spartanburg himself becoming the new coach. Dave Aranda continues to provide gifts for the administration for being kind enough to extend him. Schrodinger's coach doing what he does best by providing why he's an asset worth both keeping and firing. This continued when the so-called defensive guru let Connor Walgreens blast through the Baylor secondary with minimal effort. While Houston is out of the Big 12 contention, they are doing more than enough to prove that they are still worthy of repping the conference. They took a major lead, but Baylor, pioneered by Sawyer Robinson, clawed their way back into the brawl. Out of a 300-yard passing game, Robinson pushed Baylor back into the ballgame. Once the 15-point lead was erased, Houston was able to manifest a drive in which they took away an entire quarter of football. Out of a touchdown run from Dean Connors, the Cougars took the lead with minimal time left. Despite the bad news Bears' attempt to get down the field, they found themselves in a one-way trip to the cuck chair.
Sawyer Robertson on 4th down, fading away from pressure. He He's wrapped up. It's incomplete. And Houston takes over on downs.
Quit acting like you didn't see this coming. Baylor must suffer in the most humiliating ways possible until the football gods deem otherwise. That ends whenever Dave Aranda exits football purgatory. Sometimes I forget Deion Sanders is still the head coach at Colorado. It's hard to remember because, like everyone else in America, I don't take him or the program seriously. It took no time for the program to decay following the departure of his two superstars. Amari Miller was the closest thing to getting anywhere near what the offense had last season, and he had 120 receiving yards. But compared to the rising back in Joe Jackson, it wasn't, nor would it ever be enough. Colorado's defense couldn't stop an amputee from running past them, much less the KSU run game. Off of said run game, the Kansas State offense blasts past the Buffs and adds a little cherry on top of what's been a very shitty ice cream sundae. Alright! Colorado, on the other hand, falls further because they have no offense or existing pieces to speak of. I heard Dylan Edwards is open for a position. Cyclones? What the hell y'all doing? You do realize who this is, right? The program you're facing off with is completely dead in the water, but now you want to choose to struggle through a Big 12 opponent? You better be thankful for the talent fee is all I can tell you. Guys like Rocco Purdy and Abu Sama came through in the clutch for you when you needed it most. Plus, of course, the legend of Jack Trice himself, Mr. Kyle Conradi, came through with multiple field goals to keep the Cyclones ahead of Oklahoma State. Though the Cowboys did their best to try and do anything offensively, Zane Flores has been a liability for most of the year, and this was no different. My Gundy or not, this team was not moving forward. Out of controlling the clock, the Cyclones clinch an 8-win regular season and keep the Matt Campbell chain alive. It's worth reminding you that Oklahoma State is currently sitting in a spot your program is stuck in for decades, so take the win where you can get it. You too, BYU? Why is the whole Big 12 trying to explode today? The key word here is trying, by the way, because just as quickly as UCF got their eyes on that lead, they immediately realized their place in the conference and promptly shit themselves in a football dysentery. This led the Bear, along with LJ Martin's elite run game and all-purpose god-tier performance from Parker Kingston, far past the Knights in record time. Taven Jackson made some sick deliveries early, but after that 14-0 lead, he, as well as the offense in bulk, refused to do anything all game long. Worth a shot, I guess. You've still got a lot of work to do in order for anyone in the conference to take you seriously. You propelled BYU to the conference championship, and that's all you seem to have done. Houston seems to have gotten it figured out at least. I feel like your turn is coming up somewhere down the line. Not here, though. Get out of my face. Get out! A sure battle for dominance in the Conference USA. Unlike our previous G6 battle, this one has major implications. The winner goes on to play in the Conference USA Championship against Kennesaw State, so all the more reason to lock in for the final game of the regular season. We got that type of battle here. Caden Creel and Cam Cook took no time to get the fire going. Between them and Lavelle Wright over with Western Kentucky, both teams are going blow for blow with each other. They knew the stakes at hand and weren't about to fall apart. With results like these on the field, the only way the final outcome would be decided is by chaos overtime or whoever got the ball last. When the Gamecocks clutched up defensively, they got the ball back with quite the significant amount of time remaining. However, pulling a hat trick out of Houston's playbook, they chewed the entirety of the rest of the clock to go for the kill shot field goal.
And to clinch the title, the kick is up. The kick is good. And Jacksonville State has won the way in to the conference championship game.
And just like that, we have a winner for our Conference USA title rematch for the champion to go to the next conference title. Great job proving you don't need Rich Rod to have success. Dear Lord Almighty, how terrible is Syracuse? I think we need to hand Steve the Jelly Bean the dadgum Heisman already, because look at what they've become without him. Not only has Syracuse regressed to a bottom dweller of the conference, but they are potentially the worst team in the Power 4, maybe FBS. The football they bring on the weekly basis have become vomit-inducing to say the least. Watching them is like puking, being forced to go back in time to regurgitate your own vomit just to puke it up again. Boston College has been the almighty king of suck for what's felt like the most of the season, but you let this sick, twisted turd come in and run you out of your own field. Turbo Richard was such an asset in this game that they let other running backs on the team balance it out for a run game Q's couldn't come close to stopping. Thanks to said run game, BC's pain and agony finally ends as they win a game to improve to 2-10. Dear God, calling you poverty would imply you guys have any money or worth to speak of. Both of you need to go wherever the hell UMass is off to. I have to say, this is an excellent job by Jed the Fish. He's seeing firsthand all of the coaches getting poached in the carousel, and he's doing his part to ensure loyalty for the Huskies. Based on Washington's play in the second half of the season, I doubt anyone has got him on the radar anymore. Granted, the odds were against them the whole way when the Duckies came to town, especially since Atticus Sackington decided today would be the day that he would go God mode. 4 for 4 on field goals, including a career-long 51-yarder. On the few times the Huskies would establish some level of success, they wouldn't ever keep it going. Damon Williams was held back by the Ducks secondary all game long, and with Malik Benson showing talent on the other side, it was just a matter of when Washington would fall to Oregon. A win that solidifies their ranking in the playoffs and helps push what will likely be them with a home game in the first round. Maybe the odds will be better this time than just being undefeated. Here we go again. Oklahoma is drunk off of their own stupidity. Here's a free pad to the playoffs, and you plan on blowing it up by becoming Southern Iowa against a coachless LSU of all teams. Just what exactly is it that makes you any real threat once you make it there? The offense is inept in all capacities. John Mateer threw 3 picks out there, and the run game was nowhere to be found. It was a Thanksgiving miracle to see them even move the ball at all. So much so that they found themselves dangerously close to nuking all their hopes and dreams. But of course, you then remember that LSU is LSU, and the ghost of Burger King's career lives onward within them. Mateer hits Satanga for a busted coverage to go up 17-13. That's the thing. LSU's offense is just an inept as shown by their entire season. Michael Van Buren did everything they could, but the talent feed this go-around leans towards Boomer Doomer. Credit to LSU for keeping it close, but the Sooners maintain their spot in the playoffs through sheer will and bullshit. First time we'll ever see an Oklahoma defense in the playoffs. Behold! What the f? Here we are currently Tuesday night where the segment of the chaos is being drawn out, and Timothy Third Down Banks still has a dadgum job. I've never seen a defense collapse this hard since the last time I saw Tennessee play. Diego Pavia talked the talk all season of how he's going to run the state of Tennessee, and then you let him come into Neyland and actually walk the walk. You let him walk all over Neyland and then proceeded to do jack shit about it. This is the cancer the talent fee is paying for? I'd rather pay for a cheese grater to wipe my ass with and then use the shit crumbs to sprinkle all over that power tea. I feel publicly shamed and humiliated for watching that, and I'm sure a majority of Tennessee fans feel the same way. Letting Vandy into our own house and then putting up nearly 600 yards of offense is a cardinal sin that could get the entire coaching staff canned. Joey Aguilar deserves better than this. So did Hendon Hooker when he was there. However, when you have a bumbling moron with a room temperature IQ coaching defense, this is the result. I don't know how many more busted coverages I can see before I begin to lose my mind, but we're getting quite close to that point. We're paying Alabama football money for Iowa football results. The talent fee is paying for 8-4. Fire Tim Banks! Sorry, Vandy, but because Tennessee sucks, this will likely not be enough to push you to the playoffs. But it will likely push Pavia to New York. At least your best season in history wasn't spoiled by the talent fee. You know, the good thing about this one is that Arkansas doesn't even have to beat themselves for them to lose. With Hardy Ball being a thing for the Tigers, they just had to spam him and the rest took care of itself. While he did amass 150 yards rushing, he split the run game with Jamal Roberts, who had 100 yards additionally. While the Piggies tried their best to hold on, even meaning a halftime lead, the run game and eventual offensive stagnation allowed Eli Drinkwitz to rally his team past Hog City. The defense shut down everything Arkansas tried, only allowing 73 yards and forcing several 3-and-outs. It was the kill driver that allowed the Zoo to propel to the legendary status of 8-4. Arkansas, meanwhile, moves down to a whopping 2-10. While they never won an SEC game, they can take pride in the status of likely being the best 2-10 team in college football history. Seriously, if you just clutch up for once in your life.
This game bored out Squidtard so much that a text-to-speech substitute had to take over in his place. As for the game, Minnesota was a dominant force defensively. They were seemingly pulled by a powerful force outside of our control. A certain record we'd go as far to say John Nestor himself did more than enough to overwhelm the entirety of the Wisconsin offense. He opened the floodgates for Darius Taylor and Drake Lindsey to score just enough to survive and thrive. It wasn't like the Badgers were going to move anywhere all day. Once we reached the final quarter, neither team scored again. Minnesota ran the clock. Wisconsin failed to mount a serious drive, and the Gophers closed out the win. Off of the win, Minnesota moves to 7-5. And my fellow Tardarians, you know what that means. The prophecy has been fulfilled.
Okay, well, I'm awake now. This game was everything the other one wasn't. Penn State has already proven that their offense can move against defenses incapable of stopping a nosebleed, and this was no different. Katron Allen had himself a legacy day with a career-high 226 rushing yards on top of a touchdown. Nick Singleton, of course, brought his fair share of contributions too. But for every time Penn State struck, the Scarlet Knights struck right back. Athon Krakatoa wanted to leave this season behind with a bang. Every time one team would score, the other one would fight right back. Not sure where these two teams found their offenses at, but it's far better than anything I would have ever expected, especially since this game was to decide bowl eligibility. But with a strong run and pass game, Rutgers slowly gained the advantage over the Shitney Lions. Wonder how they'll f this one up.
Oh, the ball's out! Penn State, they recover! Penn State going the other way! Amari Campbell in the open! And it's a touchdown for the Nittany Lions!
Well, you've seen this story before, many times in fact. Last time it was because Minnesota was pulled towards their witchcraft record. That was last year. This year, it's because Rutgers is a shitty football team. Don't know when that's going to change, but what I do know is that this propels Penn State to their 6th win. Alright! Meanwhile, Rutgers returns to their natural habitat in the cellar of the Big Ten. Use this time to remember the good times, like 1869.
Get the frick out of here!
With the ACC being as much of a garbage conference as it is, everyone in it is still alive for the conference, so you best expect that most teams here will bring a game to their final brawl for the regular season. Duke was no different, whipping out the kitchen sink against the Wake defensive front. Nate Shepard and Anderson Castle each had 2 rushing touchdowns, obliterating the front through the ground game. Did Wake zero favors when they kept shooting the football and giving it right back to them. Wake Forest had so many boneheaded mistakes in this game that their whole program might become one too. The only thing preventing that is the realization that they somehow made it higher than most expected for their team. Still not enough to knock down the Blue Devils though. Duke claims the state title by beating all the other teams in their state. It's not a hard title to claim, but it's a title, and probably the only one you'll be fighting for. Right? No, we do not have time for that. For what it was worth, TCU has looked really strong to end their season. Josh Hoover had an extremely efficient day through the air, and Jeremy Payne did more than enough on the ground. However, it needs to be said that Cincinnati did like Pitt the previous year and full-on collapse. Going from 7 wins straight to 4 straight losses is a testament to the fact that momentum is a big thing in college football. Brendan Sorsby was the only one left on the squad who bothered to keep the consistency from the winning streak going. Wherever his defense transferred to is unknown, but this was perhaps TCU's most complete performance all season. Strong on offense, balanced run and pass, and opportunistic defense led to their 8th win and Cincy taking another L. Go ahead and get ready for another one to a MAC team in a bowl game since you seem to be keeping the curse along. You cannot be serious. Or the 3 wins? DJ, wrong way. Oh my goodness. All right, everyone. Everyone do it with me. Do it with me now. Welcome back to the Pac-12 Championship, everyone. You enjoyed the cancer from the last game, get ready for that again. Except it results in the complete opposite outcome for Gits and Shiggles. Oregon State is moving at a snail's pace and continues to spread more pain to everyone, including themselves, as they just want the season to end. Let's not forget this team ended Sam Houston's run for the 0-12 season. Washington State took that in mind whilst they put belt to cheeks. Zevi Eckhouse and the Wazzu offense combined the running pass game efficiently to run away with the game quick on. No matter what the Beavers tried, it wasn't enough. Even if the defense managed to shut down the opposition, their offense wasn't about to go forward. The much-needed win locked up Wazzu's bowl eligibility. A solid finish under first-year Jimmy Rogers. Oregon State, like a lot of their teams, needs a heavy factory reset, but I don't know how that'll help in the Neo-Pac-12 forms. I was gonna say, if you weren't gonna get the jump on the Turkeys this go-round, you might have ended up just like Kansas to where you'd never beat your in-state rival. Thankfully for the Cavs, they took care of business and didn't leave any room for a comeback. Part of that was due to Virginia Tech shitting the football in a record time, but it was also due to Chandler Morris's passing ability and Jamari Taylor having legs. There wasn't much the Hokies had in store for their rival, even with nothing to lose. They ain't got nothing to win either. That was shown in the effort the offense put up. Two completely different teams with two different trajectories. Virginia claims their 10th regular season dub and reclaims the Commonwealth for the first time in ages. The Hokies doing great getting ready for James Franklin. At least you're learning to lose to ranked teams early. The month of November. What? I don't need to say anything else. Fine. Congratulations to Michigan State for winning their one and only conference game of the season. Go get your lollipop and leave me alone until 2026. The Iron Bowl, a prestigious icon of the college football landscape featuring two historic college football teams battling it out in a high-stakes, intense ball game that everyone loves. Only one of those things I just said is right in this scenario. They battle all right, the dadgum battle of mid. Despite Alabama being what should be the better team by far, you know it's Auburn, and they let Auburn hang around for far too long. They surged for a few drives and then proceeded to screw off until the fourth quarter. Off of their own tomfoolery, Auburn remembered they themselves had nothing to lose in the addition of DeJordan Hare voodoo, and then immediately went to work, chopping away at the lead until it was late in the fourth quarter. Now that it's tied, it's in moments like these where we remember what happened 2 years ago on 4th and 31. Because guess what's getting ready to happen again?
He might have been held.
Roughing the passer, defense number 17.
Simpson, end zone, touchdown! Isaiah Horton with the hat trick.
Yeah, you guessed it. Now with only one chance to fix things, Auburn was handed the football. They drive down the field with precision and what is setting up for a legacy drive at another miracle in Jordan Hare. But then right on cue.
Down to 40 seconds. Quick pitch to the edge. Coleman breaks a tackle. Lost the ball! And then recovers! Deontay Lawson falls on it.
They realized, they were Auburn. The Bama factor is just too strong. Not even the Plains can do shit about it. The Tide are now most likely off to the playoffs, but before they get there, they of course have to play the Mouse in the most predictable SEC championship of all time. What's more predictable, you ask? The barn being out of a bowl.
Get out! Auburn's gonna win the football game!
It's a common trend for the week, but USC went ahead and pulled out the BYU on UCLA. The Bruins struck quick, with a few strong drives by Nikama Playgood one time for you, and led the Bruins down the field for several touchdowns. It looked like they were in for a classic brawl amongst giant rivals. Only one team could come away with the victory bell after all, and from what it appeared, despite their season, they want to show a little bit more fight. However, as expected, they eventually caved to the might of Jada Mayava and Makai Lemon, more accurately, King Miller, who garnered over 100 rushing yards and helped the Condoms quickly prevail forward. So it's fun while it lasted, no more fun for you. USC gets their perfect home record and finishes out 9-3. Far from the perfect season, but still better than whatever happened last year, so take the wins where you can get it. Your stadium is the only thing Lincoln Riley can defend. I'm pretty sure there was more snow in this game than there was offense. Not that that's saying much considering who's out there in the field, but it goes to show how impressive that is for both teams who are bowl eligible. Illinois has been very confusing to watch. Sometimes strong, sometimes extra fraudulent, sometimes somewhere in the middle. In the case of Northwestern, they can never be fraudulent because they're just mid. How they even managed to make it to bowl status is a mystery with Preston Stone leading the charge. Speaking of which, passing was similarly hard for Stone as it's always been. Meanwhile, Luke Altmaier finished the game with only 15 pass attempts. Enough of a job to keep Northwestern at bay. They were busy getting extra drives thanks to Miles Scott, including the one that shut the opposition down completely. The land of Lincoln now belongs to the Illini this season, which is fitting since Northwestern has no land of their own. Their own stadium is compromised. Watching the Tar Pits play football at this point in time is really starting to become agonizing. You don't even know who they're playing for anymore. Whether it's for Bill or for Jordan is unknown. What we do know is that the team is so far out of formation that it's basically become feasting time for Will Wilson. 4 rushing touchdowns, a stat that tells you who won based on that and that alone. But here's more. Wesley Grimes and Justin Jolie each caught touchdown passes, helping the Wolfpack conclude the night with momentum. Even though they didn't need it. UNC is an active bomb only explosive to themselves. Jordan Shipp is the only guy who can actually move the ball forward. Might be the only one with balls, and that includes the coaching staff, especially Bill. He's not wearing a shot collar, is he? Anyway, NC State extends their winning streak over UNC to 5 straight games, tying the longest such streak in the rivalry's history. Just focus on the basketball fund, this ain't working. Let it be known that games on the road against teams who just lost their head coach are the most dangerous and obvious trap games on a schedule. Teams with interim coaches have nothing left to lose. Thus was shown here when SMU found out the hard way. Off of the offense in JKS, Cal's offense found an explosive bone in their body that was otherwise not seen from the Golden Bears. They pushed the Horsies in the mouth time and time again. Nick Rolovich has experience in these situations and kept blasting them into submission. SMU looked to be cooked before the game was over, but right on cue, Cal remembered their spot in the Tate Conference and suddenly found themselves being the submissive ones. In very little time, SMU not only climbed their way back into the brawl, but outright took the lead. Ever the arbiters of bullshit in football that makes no sense though, Cal got their clutch bone back and led by JKS went 75 yards down the field, where Kendrick Raphael scored the go-ahead touchdown. With minimal time, it all came down to the legs of Sam Keltner in a clutch ball situation to force chaos overtime.
With a spot in the ACC championship game. Kick is up. And the kick is no good!
Well, that blows. But I don't think you realize the ripple effect of what you just done. With your defeat, a new team has arisen to the ranks of the ACC championship to face off against Virginia. That being... What? Are you that dumb serious, Tate Conference? Ever since their 0-2 start, the Irish have spent the entire season proving they belong in the big dance. While their fate is uncertain, what is clear is that the Trees are to be nothing more than another victim for this narrative. Notre Dame's balanced offense continues in this game. However, after Jeremiah Love got his 21st score, breaking a record for total touchdowns in a single season, something potentially disastrous happened. No doubt this would be a killing blow for the Irish, derailing Tyler hopes and convincing the playoff committee to give you the Florida State treatment. While his health is up in the air, the result of this game wasn't at least. The defense, mainly Leonard Moore, wiped out Stanford's passing game, broke up multiple throws, and helped keep the Cardinal from mounting any real legitimate threat. Thus, the Irish prevail late at night, and now everyone not named Hawaii fan can go the fuck to sleep. And there you have it. That'll do it for Rivalry Week. The madness of college football continues outside of the games, as I'm sure you guys have come to understand. Let me be the potentially first of many to show you a miracle of which we haven't seen for many. In week 0 of this season, I eliminated both Delaware and Missouri State from bowl eligibility due to NCAA rules beyond their control. However, by the end of the season, only 80 of 82 bowl spots were filled, which means that this limiter is no longer a factor. Good thing too, both teams actually made it to 6 wins. Both had offensive momentum, and now they have their spot in the postseason to continue said momentum. Congratulations! Highlighted by a record-setting day from Camden Brown, the Georgia Southern football team closed out the regular season with one of the grittiest performances of the year. It was just enough to prevail them and true freshman Weston Bryant to their 6th win of the season and carries them onward to the postseason. Never would I have expected this from Butch Jones of all people, but Arkansas State rallied from a 6-point deficit late in the 4th quarter to beat Appalachian State. It was one of the many narrow wins over conference opponents. Off of the brick-by-brick champions of life philosophy, they managed to stay bowl eligible.
The championship of life.
Louisiana had their fair share of ups and downs through a mixed schedule, showing flashes of potency but also struggles with consistency, especially on defense. But all that matters is that they made it. That has to count more than anything. Third season under DJ Kine, and notably their final season in the Sun Belt. While it was a somber goodbye for the conference they've stayed at for so long, they're moving on to better things. And more importantly, their season isn't even over, as they too are going to the postseason. I'm pretty sure this video is shorter than Army's average time of possession in a given game. They beat Kansas State but lost at Tarleton State. But what matters is you've crossed enough adversity to maintain your status as bowl eligible heading into the final regular season game against Navy. Have a good time there. The Bulls combine passing and rushing in a way that gives them flexibility, but they never put together a stretch of sustained dominance. They fought around the middle of the pack and lost the fight more times than they won it. They didn't collapse, but they didn't do enough to carry the fight all the way to the postseason. Sorry, Bulls. You'd think a moderately productive offense like Temple would have been able to push themselves to bowl status, but that defense was something not even the toilet bowl wanted. Casey Keeler, after his first season, has a lot of work going into the second year. Maybe finding a coordinator where something might help. Please take Tim Banks. The The 2024 roster overhaul did you especially dirty. We remember what happened to your poor team at the end of the year, so it's no shocker to suddenly see you're struggling after losing everything that made you, you. Allowing over 30 yards per game made it difficult to win consistently, plus a line of scrimmage that consistently got dominated. It was never going to work out like the previous season. Rebuild and get stronger for next year. I remember you used to be a consistent contender for the New Year's Six. What in the world happened to you? I know you constantly deal with coaching searches too, but this is just depressing to see. Dowell Logan's had some flashes, but never enough to meet previous standards. Gonna need to see a whole lot more in 2026. Otherwise, you can go ahead and... Scott Bell is finding out the hard way that this division of football is a lot tougher than what Davison gave you. Rice shows flashes of promise, especially earlier in the year, but inconsistency, particularly on defense, has kept them from building momentum. 30 points a game given up will do that to you. Plus, you are in the American, where everyone's far better than they should be. You never stood a chance. You're probably thinking right now, who the f*** is this guy? And why is he in my college football recap? Well, the answer is, nobody knows. Except for the Washington Commanders of all people, and Andrew Luck, because guess who's coming to the trees? Stanford has found their guy, and to my absolute shock, it wasn't Luck himself. He does have previous ties to the trees, including quarterback play and being also a grad assistant for many years. Coming in from the NFL, he gets to find out real quick what he's in for. This might be a long, arduous rebuild, but we'll see in due time how it works out for you. Considering how well Alabama's offense has been at times, it was only a matter of when some of the guys would get poached by lower universities. And considering what Trent Bray did at Oregon State, they might have been a little desperate for change. Shepard no doubt did a fantastic job running the offense, keeping it moving forward at about 34 points per game and more than 400 total yards on average. With Shepard's background developing elite receivers and offenses, I like Oregon State's odds of being far better going into the Neo Pac-12. We all knew this one was coming. Golich was one of the hottest minds the G6 had to offer. He was the mind behind some of the most head-scratching moments, both against and for South Florida. The Alabama showdowns plus the win over Billy Napier comes to mind, but we can't forget the equally strange losses that came too. Nonetheless, out of the options left, this was far from the worst Auburn could have gotten. Not only did they put the piggies in the cuck chair for this one, but Auburn brings about what should be an entire shift in the way their program functions. Not only will they recruit well, but the offense will become useful again. But the Auburn fans demand success and the boosters will be sniffing your booty hole the whole way. Hope you're ready for a different league. The coaches of the American are all getting poached at this point, and with the entirety of the SEC already making moves and Golich already taken before they could act, the piggies had to look to another source from the conference. Ryan Silverfield. Under him, Memphis has consistently been a decent program. They never gotten to the top, but they never collapsed to the garbage either. He brings in a top 20 offensive mind to Walmart Stadium. To be honest, it's hard to outsuck 2-10 and winless in the conference, so it wouldn't be bad for Arkansas fans to expect an improvement going into next year. Maybe then they'll quit losing to Arkansas. But you know what they say, if you can't beat them, hire them. Another popular name amongst the G6 train. He's got 4 conference title game appearances consecutively under his belt at Troy and now at Tulane. He built a strong roster with the program despite the lack of defense, built an offense capable of scoring on most teams that they play. But now, Sumrall will depart once again, taking his talents to Florida. So, it might just be me, but something about this seems awfully familiar. Florida hiring a popular name from the G5 hype train with a familiarity to one side of the football, who recruits decently well but also has no experience coaching at the Power 4. Close enough. Welcome back, Billy Napier! Tough luck is the way I see it for Tim Beck. He was never able to get the ball rolling at Coastal. The administration desires another team that can get back to the rankings, and they never got it. It was more often they got run off the field by their conference opponents than then just showing up doing what they were supposed to. Coastal isn't a complete trash can, but terminally mid isn't good enough for this program. 3 seasons in and it gets more mid per season. The disembowelment to James Madison to end the regular season seemed like the final straw. You'll have to cheer on the Chanticleers from the couch yourself, because your ass is out. Terminally mid would have been a compliment to whatever you call this era of Michigan State football. The moment Mel Tucker got out that booty call, everything went south, including the trajectory of the program. Jonathan Smith never had the materials to go anywhere but the dumpster. 9-15 overall and only 4 wins over his 2 seasons with Sparty. Losing 8 of your last 9 games to solidify yet another terrible season confirmed that this wasn't going to go anywhere the administration liked. The good news to take from this as a Michigan State fan is that the rebuild won't get any harder, because the previous rebuild never started. The bad news is now they're out another $38 million. Tough luck, Jonathan Smith. Now I wonder, with them joining this late in the coaching carousel, who are they gonna find? I beg your absolute holy mother of pardon? Wow, I never thought I'd see the day this would come. It seems like you were stuck on loop until the man retired or quit. He's brought the Wildcats to the highs of life which they never experienced. Winning 10 games in Kentucky football is the equivalent of winning a dadgum title in basketball. Multiple bowl appearances and several wins over rivals have me assuming that they just leave him around until the end of time. However, getting blanked to death by the Cardinals seems to have changed their mind. The overall trajectory of the program is diving straight into the toilet. By now, it's clogged. It's time to get the plunger and get to work. Mark Stoops. Yeah, we knew he wasn't going to be there for long. Lest you forget this program was the one that brought Indiana Cignetti. You'd best guarantee someone was going to reach for the pipeline and attempt to repeat it. He continued the success that Cignetti left behind, so it's no wonder there were many programs in need of his command, but the one that would get him would be... After that absolute train wreck of the 2025 season, the Bruins can't go much lower. This hire ensures that going into next season, they'll have a lot more preparation for what's to come. Fans and boosters may expect quick improvement, but real sustainable program rebuilding rarely happens overnight, especially when you have to train up a new quarterback. What do you think, Nico's gonna stay there? Pfft, come on. That's like saying UCLA will have more than 100 fans in attendance for their next home opener. You'll figure it out all too soon.
We've been here 14 months. The support has been unbelievable here. I really believe that this is probably the only place that I would have left here to go, was to go to Southern Cal. And so many people have thanked, so I'm just going to be chosen here to say I'm very thankful to all the Tennessee people who played with us.
So you left in the middle of the night, California where the lights are bright. You decided to ditch the ball. Your press conference showed you had no go now. Al Davis tried to tell everyone that you were just a lying bum. You were a loser when you coached the Raiders, so now you're a loser and a traitor. It seems you couldn't take the heat of face and team. You couldn't be. Head back out to coach your Woodstead football.
Special place.
Runaway lane, never coming back. Your lucky Monty Kiffin is your dad. The Pac-10 is what you're craving. Had no chance against Urban or Saban.
Oxford and Lane Kiffin is...
You might as well be in different leagues, not conferences, different leagues.
You know, it would be really funny if this were a success considering how much Alabama fans dislike this guy.